when we look at, okay, when we look here now, okay, well, before I get to that, let me break this down. The first European nation, civilization, right, was the Greeks, okay? So this is why when these white people get to going, I have to sit them down and I have to break the history down. The first white civilization was the Greeks, okay? Black people were already civilized before they even got on the scene. We was here way before them, okay? We ain't gonna say we was here before them, but we were civilized before them. They were still in those mountains, in the Caucasus, you know, hiding in caves and, you know, caveman stuff, barbarians, right? We were already civilized. So the first civilization was the Greeks. The Greeks came on the scene around 1200 BC, right? And they essentially stayed a nation and reigned all the way around down to around 300 BC, give or take. This is when the Romans came on the scene. And then the Romans and the Greeks were having these wars and battles over the years. And then approximately around 27 BC or whatever, this is when the Romans took over. And the Romans pretty much held it all the way up until, you know, up until about the Ottoman Empire and stuff like that, okay? So the point that I'm making here is that Ezekiel is writing this prophecy, getting this vision during the Babylonian captivity. Now, modern day Babylon, Babylon of the day was over in what they call modern day Iraq. That was Babylon over there in that area, okay? So Ezekiel was in the captivity around 500, 600 BC, somewhere in between there is when he's receiving this. So the point that I'm making here is that if the Greeks was the first European civilization, right? And then after that, you had the Romans around, you know, well, the Romans were, like I said, they were going back and forth around 300, 200, 100 BC. And then around the end of that, down around 27, 28, 29, 30 is when they basically took over. And then it was the Romans all the way up to the Ottoman Empire. So what I'm saying here is that when he's receiving this, these Europeans that we're in captivity with now, the British and all of them, they wasn't even no nation or nothing like that. They was just tribes living in mountains and stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So this is the stuff we have to break down and bring back to their remembrance, you know, because sometimes they think like they just, you know, like they just superior to this and that. But all of this stuff they learned from us. Okay.